Hello, everyone. This is Functional Fridays podcast. We talk about jobs people have, current social issues, and much more. Today we have Elana. We talked about dating and such, stories that we've had, current situations with dating, and so on. I hope you guys stick along and let's dive in.
Let's just start because everything's like set up already.
Awesome! Can't wait.
Introduce yourself. Just go ahead.
Hi, I am Elana, aka Elmar Superstar. Be sure to follow me at Elmar Superstar 131 on Instagram and YouTube. I am a live stream host and also a film and television major, and hopefully my last semester at Moorpark.
I'll put everything of yours like in the description so people can easily follow you. So we're going to be talking about dating today.
Oh, my favorite topic.
There's so much to talk about with dating, and I feel like it can be so general because everyone's experiences are different.
Right.
And right now it's such a hard time to date.
Oh, tell me about it.
So I'll just dive right into the questions. So what's your dating life been like up until now?
Well, my dating life, I didn't start dating till I was like kind of out of high school, and like a year after high school, I had a serious relationship that was like on and off for 5 years. And then I've dated a lot. I guess you can say in a sense I'm still dating a lot. And then last year I actually got engaged, but I called it off because he just was not the right fit for me. But I just feel like with millennials, there's not really dating anymore. You're either hooking up or you're just in a relationship. So it's a little discombobulating.
And I feel like with school too, like being in college, you have more of a chance to hook up.
Oh, definitely.
You're just more so to be like, hey, like, want to do this tonight? And then you see each other the next day like it's nothing.
Exactly.
And then, so what advice would you give someone if they like want to start dating?
Like right now, or just in general?
General. If like if you're giving advice to someone who's just like first boyfriend, first relationship, like that kind of thing.
Well, this is making me think of my nieces and what I would eventually tell them when they start dating is I would wait until like after high school, because I feel like high school, it's so trivial, and those high school romances that last, I feel like it's very, very rare. And I think that that's kind of become like, you know, the impossible standard to achieve, and it doesn't always pan out that way. So I would say wait until, you know, you have your other priorities straight. And then to be selective, don't just go out with anyone.
Yeah.
But do give somebody the chance and get to know them.
See, that's my question to you is like, what standard would you have for someone? Like, what would your standards be going into a date or first date or anything? Like, what are your standards?
Okay. Well, he's got to have a job and he can't be living in his car.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, but just basically somebody that's respectful also and that I can get along with. But like I am kind of picky, although my mother doesn't think so. I know that I'm kind of picky. So basically someone that seems like they have their head on straight.
Yeah. And I feel like that's kind of hard for everyone because I feel like in high school, people just date around and it's like, oh, I'm going to date this guy for 3 months and it doesn't matter.
Totally. Do you know anybody that was together in high school that's still together now?
The statistic is so low nowadays.
What is
of
it,
that
like
high school sweetheart trend?
Yeah. And you know what else is really scary? That amongst our generation, the divorce rate is apparently kind of high too.
Yeah, I think it's like 60% or 70%. It's more than half.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah, we're pretty bad with divorce rates. So
yes, we are.
I feel like our generation doesn't know how to commit.
No, we don't. And there's so many options out there.
Exactly. There's so many just people, and I feel like there's so much with LGBTQ plus that there's so much variation that there's just so much to learn about people that they don't know, I guess.
That's true.
So, how do you think dating has changed during the pandemic?
Oh my God. Well, so I'm, in regards to my dating life, kind of like a mixed bag of nuts. I've met guys in person. I've also met guys online. So definitely online dating has become way more popular and in a sense, like, you know, destigmatized. Because a lot of people are against online dating, but I feel like now this has become the new normal. And with FaceTime dates and social distancing dates. So it's definitely had an increase in that. But there's still, because I've had to resort to that. There's still guys that just like, yeah, let's hang out, let's meet up. I'm like, well, I really don't want to. There's a pandemic going on.
Of course.
And they don't get it. And I've lost a lot of great catches because of that. And it sucks. I'm like, no. Like,
and
I
it's also like, I feel like
Yeah.
if you try to go in person, it's kind of like, you kind of don't, you have to mask up. You don't get like the full experience.
No, you don't.
And like, I think one of my friends recently tried to do like a first date online and then is trying to do like an in-person date. So like, what would you recommend someone to do if they go in person right now?
Ooh, that's a really tough question, because I guess it depends on the person's standard of social distancing.
Yeah. And like, I think in every state, right? Like some states fully have like everything open. And like, we're in California, we're in Los Angeles. So like, everything's closed and you can't really sit outside many places.
Yeah, exactly. Except for like around here in Ventura County, like there's a lot more restaurants with outdoor seating now, but you're right. And that kind of also makes it confusing. Like, are we still technically under lockdown? Because it seems like everybody's going out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know in California, I know in San Diego and in Orange County, they recently opened the, like, everything. So you can like sit indoors in restaurants. You can like go like fully do whatever you want. And then here it's like, we don't really know what to do.
Exactly.
So, like, what would your ideal like going out now? Like, what would you do with your first date? Like, or your second or third date? You know, those first few dates, what would you do? Like, where would you
go? Those magical dates. Definitely like some parks are doing like drive-through movie theaters. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. I feel like, I feel like the first couple of dates are crucial.
Definitely. And I think with that, because like I know like a lot of people say that like going to the movies, you know, it's not an ideal first date because you can't really get to know each other. But I think with this, like if you're in a car, you can kind of like block out everything else and just focus. You don't have to worry about whispering, like because you don't want to disturb anyone else. Do you get what I'm saying? Or is that
you don't have to bother anyone else because you're in your own car.
Yeah, you can like form that connection. Like you don't even focus on them. Well, that would be my idea. Like I know like a lot of people have been like suggesting walks or picnics. That's cute too, but I feel like people like don't really do that unless you know someone that has.
Yeah, I know. Like I want to ask you this because I feel like before when I've gone on dates, it's typically the first date's like coffee or like tea or something, and then the second date's movie, and then the third date is like dinner.
Really?
That's usually like the same standard. So have you ever had that experience where it's like your first date's this, your second date's this, and your third date's this, and it's like always that order?
Yes.
Like how so?
Okay, so the first date I went out with this guy, it was like 8 years ago. So our first date was dinner. And then the next date was smoothies, and after that we went driving, and then we went to the Santa Monica Pier.
Yeah. So I usually feel like there's those typical like few dates that's so common as far as like ideas go. So I get the whole like drive-in movies like so cute and so different.
Yes, exactly. And I really like those unique date ideas, and then you can really tell that the guy has put so much effort into that.
Exactly. Like it isn't original kind of thing.
Exactly.
How do you think the physical attention is in like this, like the dating scene, and like how do you think physical attraction really appeals in a relationship?
I think it definitely matters, but it shouldn't supersede an emotional connection.
Yeah. I feel like right now so many people think that like sex and like being very touchy and all that is very important. Like how soon or how well do you feel like you have to know the person before you get to that point?
I usually wait 3 months.
Okay. Because I know some people are like immediate and they want to do it right away.
No, I think that it kind of like if you sleep together too soon, it does kind of ruin things or set things in a certain motion of this is what it is. And like maybe you do that to get close to that person, but then you know, one person will think, oh, this is just like a friends with benefits type deal, while the other person thinks that their connection has deepened over that. So I don't like to jump into things right away. Of course I have. And so by doing that, I learned the hard way that I should wait. But also I feel like a lot of guys I've dated have not wanted to wait 3 months.
Yeah.
Very few have.
And like, I feel like that's just kind of the whole friends with benefits thing that you were saying, is that like,
Yeah.
So many people have that idea of like wanting to just have that relationship being sexual and stuff, and it's like,
exactly. And also my other advice is before you do something with somebody, get an STD test. Like I know that recently the whole thing with Big Ed on 90 Day Fiance asking her to get an STD test, like a lot of people had an issue with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. In fact, I won't hook up with someone unless I know that. And that wasn't the problem. It was the fact that he wouldn't take one either. I don't know if
and
you follow
it
that
makes it
whole thing.
suspicious.
Yeah, why couldn't he take one too?
Exactly. And it's like, especially if you're within the first year of dating, it's like, I want to be able to trust you and build that trust with you to be like, okay, here's this.
Totally.
Okay, so at what age do you think it's appropriate to take a relationship seriously?
Probably like what I suggested earlier, after college, not after college. Well, some people wait until after college. I definitely after high school. Like high school is just for fun.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't like put so much importance in that, because high school is also like, you know, one of the building blocks of fundamentals towards your next educational and or career goals. So you really shouldn't let anything like a romance derail that. And I've seen that happen, unfortunately.
As far as when you're dating someone, like how many months would you say like, oh, this is the person I'm gonna marry?
I think it really depends on the connection. Yeah, definitely. With Andy, I knew probably like a month and a half in. Because I did not like him when we were first together. I did not like him. And then I did.
Yeah.
And then I really, really fell for him. Yeah.
And like, it's one of those things where I think everyone has to go through one hellish relationship before like.
Yeah.
Really?
That was exactly what I went through. And it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I reposted something on Instagram, I think last week, about like the 3 types of love and how your second love is like what you were saying, a hellish relationship. And I definitely feel like I grew the most from this.
Yeah. And I feel like you kind of, after having that relationship, it's like kind of what you were saying is you kind of realize what you lost, but beyond that, you kind of realize what you want more going into a new relationship.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's been tricky because I have met some good guys. One of them that I really liked and liked for a while, but he was just coming out of a relationship, so that didn't work out. A couple of them were just coming out of a relationship, and that didn't work out. And that raises another question: the wait time between those.
Yeah. How long would you wait between like getting out of a relationship?
Well, after I called off my engagement, I only waited like a month and a half.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to just dive right back in.
I feel like it really depends on the person with that too.
I do too. In my regards, I think maybe I should have waited a bit longer, but now it's clearly been long enough. Yeah.
I feel like that's what I was thinking, because like I've dated people before where it's like they just were coming out of a relationship and maybe like weeks or maybe just like about 2 or 3 months later they start dating again. And it's some people I have realized carry over the emotion from the last relationship. So like, how would you take care of that if you're like whoever you dated just came out of a relationship and you got with them and they still carried over those emotions?
That's a good question. I think everyone needs that time to process, and I think it depends like on how long you're with your previous partner, because like, you know, if it's a few months, you know, that's pretty easy, but like if you've been with somebody for years, I think that takes a little bit longer. Also, I think when you are just freshly broken up with someone and you start dating someone else, you have a tendency to bring it up a lot. Yeah. And I've always been told not to ever discuss those things right away. And I think that it runs the risk of that happening.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like do you think it's important for you to talk about exes in a relationship or not at all?
I think honestly, it depends. Because I know with my ex, who I was with on and off for 5 years, he got into a new relationship and we were still talking, not like romantically, just because we've been each other for so long, even though he still has feelings for me. And he had the chance to tell his girlfriend at the time the truth about our relationship and some personal things we had gone through, and he completely lied about it. So I think to a certain extent, you do need to have that conversation. But I think it also depends on the relationship.
Yeah, I think it's also like, I think it's important because I feel like some people get personally hindered by a relationship. And I feel like it's important if you get hurt and you feel like you're changing, I feel like it's important to bring that up to your significant other.
Definitely. And I would, and I have before, like I had discussed with a couple of these guys, it's so weird to say failed engagement. Like, you've known me for a long time. You know that I want, marriage and kids and the whole shebang, and the fact that I was this close to it and have it. But that means that there's somebody better out there for me. And so I'm very hopeful and excited for that.
Of course. And you deserve it, definitely. And I feel like everyone deserves that kind of someone to have. Like someone to have that comfort with. So do you think, now I've heard so many different people kind of talk about this differently, and do you think people should date around to realize what their type is?
Sure, why not? I like a bunch of different types. I like nerdy guys and rocker guys and some guys that like are kind of preppy. So yeah, sure, the sky's the limit.
Exactly. And I feel like that kind of helps you find the one.
I agree.
And it's kind of like, oh, this guy is kind of cute. Let me get to know him. There's so much to learn about a person.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that too.
Do you feel like with dating around, do you feel like it helps you find different qualities you like more and less? Or do you just feel like you already know, like from like having one relationship, what your type is automatically?
I think it varies on the person.
Yeah.
Honestly, because some guys will have certain elements that I like and others don't.
Yeah.
And then sometimes like they have all the elements I like, but just for some reason it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
And that's the sucky part about dating. And just because two people like each other, it's not a guarantee for anything. It's not a guarantee that it's going to be long term. It's not a guarantee that it's going to last. So it is very important to get out there and discover what your preferences are.
Yeah.
I'm still hoping for like a really hot nerd. So we'll go with that.
Exactly. And it's like, have you ever like just scrolled through Instagram or Facebook or whatever social media, and it's like, you kind of sit there and you're like, ooh, this random dude, let me take a follow with this guy, or like let me add him as a friend.
Of course I've done that.
I totally miss it. Do you have any specific horror stories with dating, whether it's guys you just dated or those first few dates where it's getting to know the guy, or
oh my God, where do I start? Well, there was the first date where we went to a hookah lounge and the waiter brought the bill, and my date's like, yeah, you're gonna get this, right? And I'm like, what? He's like, you said you wanted to smoke me out. I said, I didn't mean that I was gonna pay for it. So he ditched me there. I had to call my mother to pick me up. It was like 12:30 at night.
What do you think about that though? Like, do you think the guy should pay on the first date?
Well, I always offer to go Dutch.
Yeah.
Because you know how people want to raise the issue of gender roles and everything. And I think that there's no implications if you do that, but that's up to whomever is going out. Yeah. And more than half the time, whenever I've offered, they've just like insisted on paying.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's more comfortable, more assuring, especially if the guy turns out to be a jerk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, especially on that first few dates when you're getting to know them, you're just like, I don't know what you're gonna be like. I don't know what to expect.
So. Exactly. And I hate that awkward tension, but I think it's kind of normal now because some dates that I've gone on that have been really good dates have like started out like a smidge awkward.
Yeah. I get it.
So there's that. And then I'm trying to think of anything else. I really can't, but like online horror stories. Yeah. So as you know, I'm a live streamer. Mm-hmm. And I had befriended this chick, and she was like the object of this guy's affection that turned out to be very creepy and just exhibited very predatory behavior. So she asked me if I could help her get away from him. Mm-hmm. And I did, and he completely turned back against me and blew up in my face.
That's insane.
It is insane, not to mention that like he's old enough to be her dad. And I'm like not knocking on any older relationships. Andy was 12 years older than me, and my family had a bit of an issue with that, but I'd rather take somebody 12 years older than like 21 years older than me.
Yeah. Do you have like an age limit as far as like guys you date?
Yeah, so I've always dated older guys, and actually last year is interesting. I was dating somebody that was 12 years older than me and then 5 years younger than me, and let me tell you, that is very, very stark contrast. But my oldest, probably like 44.
Okay, that works.
Yeah, but like that's just like the highest I would go. Like if I met someone and they were that age, like I'd make the exception, but probably like early 30s.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Now
It's so weird to say that now. I'm still like feeling like in my 20s.
exactly. It's crazy to think about like perspective of age nowadays.
Oh, totally.
Now, my question is, what would be like if you're going on a first date, what first date questions would you ask to get to know the guy or like whoever you're going on the date with?
That is such a good question because there are so many questions that you can't ask because they're taken out of context. Like, do you ever want to get married or have kids? I wouldn't ask that on a first date. More just like I think the first date is you're like getting to know each other, and then the second date you should probably go a bit deeper, depending on how the first date goes. I kind of like hate first dates because it's like there's no guarantee for a second date. Like there should be like at least like a required 3-date minimum before you decide if you like them. But I know that that's like a little unrealistic, but it would be nice if things were like that.
Yeah. And I know most people at least do the second date normally. That's what I've realized with a lot of men or guys or anyone is that a lot of them try to do the second date to have that depth conversation.
I agree.
And
that's definitely how I prefer it.
Yeah, and I totally respect that. Because you really get to have like stories when you were a kid and be like really being able to like connect with the person.
I know, I agree too. And I love like hearing those fun stories too.
Exactly. And it's like, it could be hours and suddenly it's like 3 a.m. and you're like, oh, I have to go. I probably should go.
I know, right? I love that too.
Now, do you think, this is something I was thinking about too. Do you think style really matters within the first few dates? Like, would you go very formal with the first date?
Honestly, it depends on my mood. But I do like a guy that has style and that, you know, grooms himself and takes care of himself. I feel like, are you going to bleep out anything I say? I feel like the past few guys that I've dated have had style like like, oh my God, like Andy used to wear Birkenstock sandals.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It's bad. Yeah. See, you know.
Yeah. I get
and that was bad. So I'd like a guy with some style, you know, with some swagger. Exactly. So, and I think with those first dates, you definitely want to set an impression of yourself. Yeah. And how you represent yourself. And then like as things further progress, you can become more laid back.
Yeah, I totally get
it.
But
also depends on the person. Some people are just really laid back. I like, you know, to do my makeup and accessorize.
Yeah. You really like, you kind of start all out and then you kind of be like, okay, well, here's my messy hair and here's my sleepover clothing. I'm going to
exactly. And my retainers.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, this is another question is how soon should you introduce your significant other to your family?
That's a really great question as well, because my parents are divorced and I'm closer with my mom than my dad. So I've introduced guys to my mom right away, like no big deal. It's my dad that I haven't introduced every single guy that I've dated. I would say like probably like a month and a half. Yeah. That's a good amount of time. Like a month and a half, 2 months.
And like, would you like kind of, when would you introduce them to like kind of extended family or like kind of let social media know? Because I feel like that's another thing that people kind of wait out on is like, when should we set that relationship status or kind of
oh, exactly. And that's become such a precedent for this generation. I feel like that at times it can kind of be a kiss of death. Yeah. Yeah, so that would worry me. I'd say probably like around 3 months just to be sure.
I feel like 3 months is a good time for like any of it.
Yes, absolutely. 3 months, sleep together, be on social media, meet the parents. That's all a good amount.
Yeah, it's like an official, like here's him, like here's it all.
I know. Oh my God, how I constantly dream about having those cute Instagram posts.
Do you have any other like horror stories that you want to add?
Not that I can think of. I'm trying to think. Oh, so I finally had my dream date with Andy. We went to my favorite restaurant and it was like in the middle of November and it was freezing and the service was awful. That sucked. But luckily, I don't know, most of my dates haven't been memorable. Oh, so there was this one guy I was talking to that seemed really great. But I wasn't sure about his preferences. Yeah. And so he sent me a picture of himself in drag as Frankenfurter from Rocky Horror Picture Show. And he's like, yeah, I was really hoping you'd be able to teach me how to do better drag makeup. And he said, your worldviews are too problematic and political and right-wing for me. I'm like, I'm not right-wing. I'm middle of the rotor. And also, I feel like that brings up something else. Politics have played a big role in dating.
Now, do you feel like it's politics? And I feel like religion is another one.
Yes. And I don't know about you, but I was always brought up like not to discuss those things with people I don't know very well. So it's sex, religion, politics, and money.
Yeah.
And business that you're like not supposed to like bring up casually.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's, again, is attributed to our generation.
Yeah. Do you feel like now, like once you get serious to get to know the guy and everything, and once you've had like those more intimate moments with the guy, do you feel like those things, like the religion and how much money he makes and all that, do you think that could really hinder your relationship or like make a difference?
I think that it has the potential to, and I've seen some relationships like divide because of it.
Because I feel like that's something I've seen too, because like a lot of my friends are very religious,
Mhm.
and I'm completely like the other end. Like I've grown up, you know, not really, not believing in God, but really just never having any sort of experience with religion.
Right.
Because my parents were never that religious, and so I feel like that plays a role even in friendships sometimes.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Do you feel like it's important to really? Do you think you could date a guy that's your friend already?
That's a good question. And I have so been in that predicament before. I actually think that one of my most recent friendships, he was unsure about his girlfriend at first. And I think like looking back on it now, he might have been trying to say something to me and I kind of like turned him down. I said that like he wasn't manly enough.
That makes me laugh.
I know that like sometimes I come across as a bit of a bitch, but just you know me that I say like kind of what's on my mind. I'm like, no, because I do really like him. I'm like, you're just too boyish for me.
I totally get that too, because like I knew a guy we went to high school together, and he was like a grade or two above me, and he was like, he continuously hinted and thought we were like going up slowly from the friend zone, and he would like hold my hand in public, and I'm like, I never agreed to this, like let go.
Well, that is a really interesting question because I've been on the opposite end of that, having feelings for a friend but didn't tell him because I didn't want to ruin the friendship. And I'm still not sure about if I regret doing that or not, but I believe that in the long run I probably made the right decision.
Yeah.
Because those friendships are so sacred. And then it's like you have the fear of it being unrequited, so being one-sided, which sucks. And I think that was definitely the fear I had. But I think it also depends on the person.
Exactly. It completely depends, because it's like you could be friends for just a couple of months and be like, I got to know you well enough that I think there's something there. And it's like you debate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to ask something, and it totally escaped my mind. What was I going to ask? Oh, have you ever had like a guy be like the one that got away kind of thing, where it's like you had so many emotions for them and it's like you stopped being friends or something concluded like your connection with that person?
Yes, quite a few.
Have you, like, how do you deal with it? Like, what would be your advice to other people that go through that?
Well, for me, I know that I kind of like self-sabotage and like would keep thinking about it or lurking on Instagram. Yeah. As much as I hate to admit, not so much lurking, but like watching their stories or whatever, and just knowing that the person that they were with was not the right person for him. But I think, you know, everything happens for a reason. If he was the one meant for me, that's the way it would have panned out, and it didn't. But there's also that hope that maybe things could pan out further down the line. Yeah. But you just distract yourself, definitely.
Yeah. Do you definitely recommend that the same thing with like breakups and stuff?
Yes. See, I know that some people like still try to be friends with their exes, but it's very, very, very tricky to be friends with your ex.
I completely agree with that, like 100%, because I feel like you never end up being on the same emotional level with them ever again.
I completely agree. Like my ex that I mentioned earlier, we still talk. All he does is ask me about my dating life, and every single guy I talk to, oh, how's it going on Bumble? What's going on Hinge? You know, oh, why don't you just call one of your other boyfriends, blah, blah. And it's so exhausting. But then one of my guy friends, we briefly dated and we're still friends like 10 years later. So but we also still have like a bit of a flirtatious thing going on, but still we're good friends.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what I mean is like that's really important to understand where like you both kind of stand emotionally, and it's like if you both mutually break up, I feel like that makes it kind of okay.
Mhm.
But like I don't think I've been friends with like any of my exes, to be honest. Like
Yeah, like it's kind of just like for me, like they've kind of just like faded away, and then there are some that I know I don't need in my life.
yeah, and I feel like with some people it's hard for them to like let go. The idea of like
Yes.
completely removing them off social media, and then you like look through your phone and it's like all these selfies or pictures you took with them, all the memories. I feel like a lot of people have that struggle with letting go.
Absolutely, because like you can't just throw away your investments. You invested your time and your energy and your emotions and your heart. You can't just be like, some people can though, but I think it's not something that's very easy. Because I think after I called off my engagement, it was expected of me to just, move on. But, I took some time with it, but I can honestly say I'm in a much better place now having gotten over it, but it was difficult at first.
And I feel like that's something you like, people can never put a time on how much it really takes to heal, because it's kind of that one day you're just like, I'm gonna have this realization of like, I'm okay now. You can never really put like an amount to it.
I completely agree.
I feel like it's I also feel like going into a relationship, you need the confidence in yourself before going in that relationship.
Exactly.
Is there
I
anything
think so too.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, is there anything you feel like you need to have like prepared for yourself before going on dates, or like what do you need to feel within yourself before going on those dates?
Definitely confidence, and also not to be relaxed.
Yeah.
I need to be like really relaxed because I don't want like anything that's bothering me throughout the day or leading up to the date or whatever to carry over and show. And then, he's like, are you okay? And then, if someone's feeling on edge or vulnerable, to just open up about it, it could sabotage their chances. So I need to just like have a clear head.
Yeah. I think that's really important because like it sets the mood for those few dates.
Oh, I agree. It totally sets the mood.
Oh yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to end or add before we end?
Not that I can think of, but that like, don't be afraid to put yourself out there, especially with online dating. And, online dating is a double-edged sword. Like, I always used to view it as like shopping. Like, I was shopping for my leading man.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, except for now there's like so many trolls and catfishes.
That's something I think the biggest thing that people need to be wary of right now is the catfish trend.
Yes, I was unfortunately catfished.
Were you?
Yeah, so I've been talking to the guy on and off for like 7 years.
Okay.
And then we meet in person to go see La La Land, and I still haven't seen that movie to this day. It's over there. The DVD's over there. I need to watch it. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. But remember when we were taking that class, it was like right around the time it came out, and I was telling him, oh my God, you have to go see this movie. So he took me to see La La Land, and I like went all out and got like super, super cute. And then he's on the phone. I see this guy walking toward me. I'm like, oh, is someone behind you? I'm like, oh my God, no.
Texting me about this.
Yes, I remember. And then I left.
Yeah.
Yeah, because okay, if we had better seats, I would have like sat there, but like they were like at the really way bottom of the movie theater.
Oh God.
Worst seats in the house. I like the top. I'll like the top. What about you?
See, that happened to me because I hate the front too. I like being whatever higher the better. I'm the same way. And I was going on one date. This was a couple of years ago, and I went on this date with this guy, and he was hard of hearing in one ear. So we kind of sat closer, but we were like second row of the theater, like up front. And I'm like, I'm not gonna hurt my neck, like watching this movie. Like it isn't worth it.
Oh God, what movie was it? Do you remember?
Do you remember when Kevin Hart was doing like his comedy sketches as movies?
Which one?
I think it was a second I don't remember the name of it. It was a second or a third one that he released, and I forgot what it was called, but I think it was Dangerously Funny. The one where he had like a lot of fire in like the beginning. I
can't remember. I'm not a huge Kevin Hart fan. I don't like really like follow his movies. But that doesn't seem like a movie you'd have to have like that intense of an experience for. Because like my one friend, he's like, have to sit in the front to get the full experience. I'm like, no, you don't. Like one time, okay, when they did the re-release of Titanic for like, I think it was the 100th year anniversary, or Paramount's 100th year anniversary, like I went with my G-Beth, my gay best friend, and we saw some things going on in the couple rows below us. I'm like, look. Let's just say something more than Titanic was going down that night.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's so funny when you like see that on dates too, and you're like, there's people like making out, and you're just like,
it's so awkward. But have you ever had it where the guy does the stretch and yawn?
Yawn and the.
But it's so cute. See, that always gets me. It's super cute. It's like.
That's what I'm saying. The cheesy things get to me too.
Oh yes, me too. I like have such a soft spot for that too.
Yeah. Do you have any like turn offs for the first few dates? Where it's like the guy does this and you're just like, nope, not down. Like I'm done.
Probably if he's just like a real douchebag.
Yeah.
Because the guy that catfished me that I left, he's like, well, I know it wasn't me because I'm super good looking. I'm like, are you kidding? And he's like, no, I know it's not me. So there are guys that can be very vain and cocky and full of themselves, and that is such a turnoff too.
Yeah.
Or any guy that like, because I know that we were talking about paying earlier, but that like demands that I pay. I think that that's rude. And but see, the thing with that is that it's so tough to discuss it like early on. Like, oh, do you want to pay? Yeah. Some people are bold enough and do. To me, I'm a little uncomfortable with that. I kind of just wait till the end, just be like,
exactly.
And then what else? That's pretty much it. I think it all really lies in the attitude. And of course, there's those few things like if a guy burps or like starts biting his nails, that's pretty gross.
Yeah. Do you think that like this is something I had a conversation with someone else? Is that do you think guys should pick you up on the first date? I've had this.
I prefer it, but nowadays it's perfectly acceptable if you just meet up, especially if you're doing online dating. But in the end, it's much better to be autonomous on a first date in case something doesn't work out.
You don't want to deal with a creepy.
Yeah, that too. Like I usually like if I'm getting picked up, which I usually don't do, but if I am, I give another address.
Mm-hmm. You give like a friend's address.
Or like the house like farthest down the street. Yeah.
So you don't have to deal with it yourself, kind of thing.
Exactly. So like I feel that now if a guy doesn't come pick you up, that's fine. If you're both meeting up and taking your own cars to those first couple dates, that's cool.
Yeah. It's kind of a safety precaution, regardless.
Oh, absolutely. And it just works out better for you in the long run.
Yeah. Now, what do you think about, like, guys bringing flowers on the first date?
Oh, it's so sweet. I feel like, you know what? I'm so glad that you asked this question. Yeah. I feel like no guy does that anymore. And I would love that. Like, I don't think that it's presumptuous. I think it is a very sweet and polite and romantic gesture. Yeah. And I'm not going to lie because I am guilty of this. I've actually told guys which flowers to bring me before.
Really?
Yeah. Hey, a girl deserves to be romance.
Exactly. And I feel like even like you were kind of saying about the cheesy stuff earlier, like when a guy opens a door for you and like kind of lets you like opens a door for you going into a theater or something or whatever. Or like asks you which seats you want in a theater, stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, you know what always got me that I never got? I don't know if you remember from like any like old fashioned movies where like the couple's walking and the guy takes off his coat and puts it over the rain puddle for her to walk up. Where was that even concocted?
Exactly.
It's so far-fetched. I would be annoyed, like, you ruined your jacket for me. You know, we could have just walked around the puddle. The puddle.
Exactly. I totally get that.
And then miraculously, his jacket's not wet afterwards.
Exactly. I love that in movies.
I know, me too. And I definitely think that in a way, movies and TV and pop culture as a whole have kind of, you know, put romance on a pedestal for people, especially hopeless romantics like myself.
I think for both of us, I think we could like that kind of speaks on both of us because
absolutely, because we're both film majors and it's such a big part of our lives.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like I feel like I've caught myself doing this so much, and I've been told by like whoever I've dated that like it's kind of a thing I should kind of get out of my head, but kind of not. Is that like I'll sit there and it's like we'll be watching whatever movie, and it's like I'll turn to them and it's like, why don't you do that? And I start expecting it out of them. I do that.
I would totally do that too.
Yeah. Or it's like it's things like that in movies that I start to expect myself, and then I kind of like look at myself later and it's like I need to stop, because it's like I'm asking something of them that's kind of just unrealistic sometimes.
True, but in a way maybe, you know, he can be inspired by that.
Exactly.
I think that's a good idea too. Hint, hint.
Exactly, I get it, totally. All right. Well, I'm going to end this here.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so good to see you. We should definitely come up with some more ideas to collab.